The train's moving up. The door opens and this guy pokes his head out with a RPG, straight up rocket launcher, and he shoots it right at the first guy in the train. And you see the whole train goes, whoop, and this rocket goes flying up, misses everybody, and then just does a little caterpillar up into the sky. However, apparently in terrorist school, they didn't teach this about overpressure because he had the back of the rocket launcher inside the door. So all of a sudden, the overpressure explodes and it collapses the whole mud hut down on him and all of his terrorist buddies. The problem being, one of our guys was on the roof. So he goes through the roof, down literally like into the beehive, falls into the building, into the room where there were like 8 fucking terrorists waiting in there. And the 2 dudes that were on the sides, that were on the adjacent building, will just run to the side of their buildings and just aim down and go, Kirk, freeze! And he just laid there and they go, and they shot everybody around him. And he just laid there on the ground and just let his 2 buddies kill everybody. He just trusted his buddies to do it. But
Hey, and welcome to the Luck Bubble, or the Template of Now, or the Temple of Now. I don't even know what it's called. But what is it? It's always the same thing. And that's that space where we go to delve into, in a lighthearted fashion, the greatest gift we've got, which is coming back to the now and realizing we don't know. I'm your host. I'm Kirk Westwood, and I am the irreverent guide on this little journey. Today, we've got some fun stuff lined up. All your regular segments like Dear Dickhead and Idea of the Week. But first of all, I want to introduce you to my great mate, David B. Meadows. He's a former Navy SEAL. He has successfully transitioned into a successful acting career and also working in the neurological space in high-performance coaching as well. Please, a warm welcome to my great mate, David B. Meadows. G'day, mate.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Doing. What's the weather like in California?
It is perpetual summer. We just had a big rain. By big rain, I mean like an hour and a half of it the other day, so people freaked out. But
for the one day of the year that you have it.
Exactly, the 1 hour, the one day of the year we have rain.
Yeah, right. Gold. Well, thanks for joining me, mate. We're going to get into some stuff, a deep conversation. But first of all, I like to get my guests to show us something that is in essence of them. Just 30 seconds or so of something that moved them. Have you got something that moved you?
Yeah, I've got
talk through
a song for us that every time I hear it, it reminds me of something vital in my life.
I like it. Do you mind putting it on for us? We'll have a little bit of a listen for 30 seconds or so, and then you can explain why it moves you so. I am. Wish you were here. Floyd.
Yeah, this particular one is actually a remake by Avenged Sevenfold, the original by Pink Floyd. And I think the reason that it always moves me is because, first of all, the lyrics are just absolutely masterful. I mean, some of the things that he says there, I'll just read a couple of them. The opening one. So, do you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from the cold, still rail, a smile from the veil? Do you think you can tell? Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change? And one of the things that I think is so brilliant about it is
But first of all, they were definitely high when they wrote that because it's so beautiful.
for sure. They were high on some psychedelics, 100%.
100%.
100%.
So I digress. You're right there.
Yeah, those dudes, it's so funny. Pink Floyd actually at one time even credited on an interview, where they were talking about the height, and they were like, "Dude, our whole career was built off of LSD and magic mushrooms."
Tapping in a part of their brain that was so beautiful.
For sure. They were mainlining that stuff. Um, but I think it's this, and you and I talk about it a lot, trading cold illusionary comfort, or excuse me, trading truth, trading greatness, possibility, fulfillment, happiness in exchange for cold lies. Did you trade the truth, the scary truth, for a comforting lie? Is basically what he says and a lot of those sorts of things. Did you trade your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for dreams, hot air for cold comfort for change? It speaks to a lot of the human condition and especially what we run into in society nowadays and the things that we struggle, that compulsion, that desire for us to trade a comfortable story for our dreams. Like that is overwhelming. And I think that that's one of the biggest thing in my own work that I find myself constantly fighting to maintain awareness. Is this the right choice or is it the comfortable choice? The real thing that I want, or is it the thing that feels familiar? Right.
Mm, mm,
And I think that battle is just an ongoing thing. And so this song always reminds me of that. And the other thing that it always does, um, wish you were here. It reminds me that throughout my life, I typically hear this song when I'm going through loss, whether it's a breakup or the loss, my dog after he died after
mm.
15 years, or losing teammates and things like that. And it always reminds me, never, ever, ever, ever do I hear that song and think, man, I miss my car. I sure fucking miss my PlayStation right now. It's not the thing ever. It's always a person or it's always a place of companionship and a love, like with my dog or
Mhm,
teammates or
mhm.
romantic partners or friends. It's always an energetic thing that I'm missing.
Do I miss my Instagram feed?
Yeah. Do I really miss my mocha latte? Like this shit. And it reminds me that it's always a very moving retouch that the things that I miss most, the things that I spend so much time worrying about have a price on a daily basis, but the things that I miss the most are priceless.
Mhm.
And I should not worry so much about those things with the price.
The SEAL side of things and making the transition into acting, I'm so proud of you for really using that skill set of your nervous system now has to become regulated under a different kind of stress, but it's still stress. The body doesn't know the difference. You say, but there's stress. The lights are on. You got to demand. You've got to find the character. They're running out of golden hour daylight. You've got to be there in that moment. What did you do to help regulate your nervous system when you made the change from being not vulnerable to the ultimate vulnerable being exposed on camera or the stage?
Yeah, you know what I think it ultimately came down to for me was ironically, it was the same thing, and that's preparation and belief in myself. Not from an arrogant perspective, but the kind of a confidence that I was able to develop through training, through experience, through practice, through that sort of a stuff that I can step up there. And just like whether I was making a sniper shot or going running through the house or I'm doing this or I'm doing that or going diving or doing something crazy, I have the faith in myself that I know what I'm doing and I know how to get the job done. And now the same thing in the entertainment industry, even though the tools have changed, we now have vulnerability and acting rather than, weapons and this, that, or the other thing. The training and the preparation and the internal confidence has stayed the same. And
Mhm.
that's, I think, one of the big things because, and in an interesting way, there's a separation from stress, which is really interesting when you're trying to be open for some emotions
Mhm.
it's actually way easier when you're operating and you just go, fuck it, just go. Right.
Mhm.
And you go and you
Fortune
just
favors the brave. Lean in. I've done the work. I've done the
ex-
past selection. I've got the skills under my belt. The Rio cycle. I know what I'm doing here. Fucking back yourself. Let's go.
let's go. And you just shut off all feeling and and you just run, right? And
Mhm.
just go, 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 go. But in the acting world where it's like, hey, you want to shut off the feelings that you don't want, like the stress to the situation, the director saying, you only got one more, go, 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 all this sort of, yeah, I need this. And then all of a sudden I have to sit down with you and be completely open, while you tell me that, our brother just died. Right.
Mhm.
But it's interesting, just like in the operating where we direct. So maybe it's saying shutting off the stress is a bad thing, but you direct the stress. You use the stress, you use it to
Mhm.
fuel you into your confidence, into your energy. You say, well, fuck it. Boom. Just like you're getting ready to jump out of an airplane. You just go
Mhm.
and you just go, right?
Mhm.
And like trying to act like it's not scary or an unnatural thing. In the acting world, it's still that same redirection where all of a sudden you come in there and I go, okay, cool. Now the director's screaming, this is happening, that's happening, and all that sort of
Mhm.
stuff. So I just allow that energy to funnel through into the energy of the scene to
Mhm.
be there. But it's that same kind of process of like using what's there for what to do rather than what it's trying to make you do.
Got it. So preparation going into is exactly the same. And then when it's game on,
Yeah.
now I'm open to the unknown to create and adjust. But the
Yep.
mission stays the same. There is an end result. Your end result's gone from task, operation, operational priority to enter this room, this scene in this way and try and get what I want
Right. Exactly.
by being as open as possible.
Exactly.
Excellent. Great way. And one thing I love about you is your ability to lean into what you don't know. It's like, fuck it. I don't know. I'm going to make some mistakes. You make mistakes really quickly, which I really admired about you, and especially in the work that we did. You are up for it. And that's, I think, why you move so quickly. Like even when it came to the genuflection upon yourself and you become a hell of a lot more humble as a man. I've seen you in the last several years, just your humility and without your need for projection has dropped. You've gone from, I can do this and show you I can do this to actually, maybe I can't and I'm okay with that. Your love for yourself has increased in such an incredible fashion and your nervous system regulation has come along for the same. But your ability to go, I don't know was fantastic. I am stepping into a realm where I don't know me. Okay, let's lean into this. Let's get this wrong. Within your work, within your vocation, within your relationships, you are leaning in, which I really, really loved. And your ability to make those mistakes go, it doesn't mean anything about me, all came together. You just started. It's like, do it and then make it good. It's like me with this podcast. Look at how poor my production values are. But understand the what's needed is Kirk, you just got to make it. Then you can make it good. Make the mistake as quickly as possible. Get the heat, the hate, whatever it is that people are doing what you're doing, because you just need that to move through it. And I really appreciate that and what you've done. So tell me, how are you translating that now into the work you're doing, the coaching side of things? Because I know you're doing some neuropsychology, high performance work with clients, which is fantastic because you took what we were doing and just totally leaned in the last 5 years, made the most of COVID and leaned into learning this shit. Talk me through that.
Well, actually, I mean, it's kind of funny that we're talking about because you really pushed it inadvertently. I don't know if you're
Oh,
aware.
oops,
I
guilty.
no, it was a fantastic because I don't know if you remember or not, but a long time ago, we talk about the comfort, right, and the fear and the anger, right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there was a time where you and I were doing a session, several, like sometime last year or something like that, and we were doing an intuitive read and then we came out of it and I gave my side and then you said something about you said, mate, I get this thing. And you were saying, you're like, I think that, you're going to be very well known and very famous and successful as an actor. But I think that the thing that's really going to be unique about you is that not only are you that, but you're a holy man. You're a guru. And I was like, like I got really pissed. Do you remember this conversation?
I very rarely remember sessions, but I can vaguely remember something about this.
Well,
because of the reaction.
yeah,
Actually, right now, I actually remember the symbol. I actually do remember it. As you're mentioning, I do remember it was an Egyptian symbol.
yes.
I actually remember the symbolism.
Yes, yes, yes. So you brought it up and you were like, dude, mate, you're a holy man. You're a guru. And I was like, blah, blah, because my mental baggage onto those words basically is fraud, right? The whole guru sort of blah, 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 these false gurus, and especially here in Los Angeles and all that, everyone
Mhm.
wanting to act like, and this whole thing. But I think it also that was very comforting to me because I was rattled by a lot of imposter syndrome. And
Mm.
so we talked about it a little bit and you kind of, you challenged my interpretation of those words. And then you eventually told me, and, we were agreeing to, you're like, you do know that the fact that you had that strong of an emotional reaction means there's something there that you need to investigate. You need to entertain this.
Mm.
Like, the fact that it has that much of an emotional charge means it's freaking important and you need to delve into that. You need to embrace it.
Mm.
Look at it. Right. So I just said yes. I went into the unknown. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm a fraud. I feel like I'm a this. I feel like I'm a that. And it was really funny, mate, because it was, how often we think things are pushing us away, but really it's us pushing it away. And so immediately after I got off of there, I reached out to a bunch of doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, psychotherapists that I've known for years because, I'm a huge, neuropsychology junkie. I just think that the brain, its power to create manifestation, real life, I mean, all these sorts of things,
Mhm.
where the spiritual or the mystic deviates from the science or but either way, all of these things are just absolutely unbelievable. And I'm just ravenous in it. So I had all these panel of
Ravenous.
docs, yeah, talk to. And I finally brought it up to one of them and I was like, hey, dude, so I've been thinking about this thing and kind of looking into coaching or consulting. What do you think about that? And I expected him to be like, Dave, you should go back if you want to do that, you should go back and get your PhD and blah, blah, blah. And instead he goes, yeah, I was kind of wondering why you're not doing that. That was his response. And well, and I go, well, because I'm not a doctor, blah, blah, blah. He goes, yeah, but bro, I like text you and ask you questions about like, what do you think about it? I was like, yeah. He goes, I typically text you before I text other doctors. He's like, yeah, I've wondered why you don't do it because you clearly love it and you know a lot about
Uh-huh.
it. Why don't you do it? And I was like, holy. So at that point in time, I just kind of I just said yes to the discomfort.
Uh-huh.
And I reached out to a bunch of doctors and everything, and we just formed a team and we started it up and started going forward. So now we've got the company coming up online and, and we're still like figuring out exactly what the full model of the whole company is going to be.
Mhm.
But on a personal note, I've now started onboarding clients very, very selectively, figuring out exactly people that I think we can actually help and help to build and help to educate or to train or to do any of those sorts of things. And
Mhm.
that's delved out from basically I get two different runs of people who either their life is going really badly for them,
Mhm.
it's like kind of what you and I, people are in a divorce or they're going bankrupt or they're this or they're that.
Mhm.
Or the people who they're looking to make the next big step. Sometimes people are saying, hey, I want to go out for spec ops selection, or I want
Mhm.
this new big business of myself. And it's typically those people that I find that recognize that they need a shift in mentality to help them get to their next level. They're like, I know that I want to go here, but I'm
Mm.
holding myself back by the way that I do about things and stuff like that. But what's interesting is that the people that are oftentimes looking for help because it's the opposite, I find don't know that. They
Mm.
it's like some external thing that's being done to them rather than something that they do to themselves. And I
Mhm.
found that being a very interesting divergence.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Well, first of all, can I just mention the elephant in the room, which is I just worked out why this shot was so bad. It's because there was a film on the lens.
Noticed. I noticed.
I've been doing this for 5 weeks, and I mean, like, I can't get the light right. And I just worked out it's the lens. And what is even worse is a mate told me that, and I was like, "Yeah, no, no, that's clean, mate. The gate's clean, and I can't let him watch this now. I'm gonna have to cut that bit out and just pretend it was the light."
He just super. He's like, he's like, mate,
Damn.
just Did you clean the fucking lens? You're like, no, no, I wasn't it. Wasn't it.
No, mate. It was the light with the thing. He's like, you're lying to me. Damn it.
Full of
Caught
shit.
out. Mate, I was listening to what you said though, which I love for you because it's amazing that I remember that. That's 8 or 9 years ago that I got that symbol. It was one of the first reads I ever did for you. You know, we started geeking out over Maxwell Maltz and the silver mind control method. And you're like leaning into like, shit, what do you know about us? I said, well, 20 years worth of experience, 30 years worth of experience in this realm. We started leaning into, I said, well, what's the problem? What's that problem? What's the first thing? You're like, you tell me. So I did a read. I was like, okay, it's relationship. And that was the in, because that was the thing that had the most heartstrings for you. It's the thing that meant something about you. And it was undeniable because you're like, fuck. Yeah. And when someone else gets that reading you without you telling them, that's when you know you're on the money with it.
It's so fascinating, isn't it? How much whatever's going on inside of us somehow gets projected out into the world, oftentimes when we think it's not, or whatever the case is. And people
it's not psychic ability. It's what's obvious. It's just what's obvious. And we can see it in other people all the time, as we just talked about before. You know, you don't see it in yourself. But I remember the actual symbol as you're talking. And it's rare that I get a symbol, something that would be on a sign or a wall, because that's often how you would go into, when I taught you intuition, how to get a symbol. You would literally get a sign of some sort, a two-dimensional sign. I normally get songs, I get parts of my own past, I get videotapes, and imagination just takes over, and I get this, what could be called something that is symbolic of what I need to understand about you. And I got the Eye of Ra. And it's very rare that I remember something from 8 years ago, especially going into a read, because I've just discarded it straight away. But it was the Eye of Ra. And what's important, because people say, well, maybe I'm a holy man, or maybe that symbol means something else. It doesn't matter what the symbol is. It's just the lead in to what we need to work on, which was, we need to look at this, whether or not it is your destiny to be ultimately a holy man. There is something in you that I get. And because you get that emotional reaction, we're on the money. Because there's something in you that needs to be, and it led you down this path over several years to end up in this place you're at. And the nature, true nature and purpose is probably, no matter how long I used to work with someone as a coach, I'm sure I still do reads on people, still take them out in the wilderness, and they make incredible discoveries. But in the long-term coaching side of things, it always comes down to, what's my true nature and purpose with men? And I was, how am I really? With feminine, it was like, how am I really? What's my true nature that I can love, that I don't love about myself? But also, what's my purpose? What's my thing? On the masculine would be like, what's my thing? What's my purpose? And you very quickly got to that. I want to know, because this is the road I'm going down. I want to know me, and I want to know what I'm here for straight away. And then you just leaned into it massively. But you said something interesting, which was, even at your learned stage in life, you said to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or someone who was the doyen of this work, oh, no, I need a PhD or something like that. He's like, no, why just aren't you doing this now? Because we always do that. There's conditions required before I can have what I want, instead of just going after what you want.
Right.
And it's the ultimate lie. Magic happens, and it's not magic. It's cause and effect. And people get all these things in place that they think they need to have before they can get the thing that gives them the emotion that they want. The irony is, the emotion they want is available in a heartbeat. It's simply a choice. But
And the
all this stuff
create the thing that it's reverse.
Right. There are no conditions required for magic, as my mentor used to say. You go after it. And the stuff that gets in the way, like we just talked about, it's not the addition of skill. Mastery is the removal of the shit that gets in the way.
Yep.
And that's what you become very good at firsthand, doing it yourself, and then now starting to work with other people. This is a great field for you to be in, mate. Great field.
We're trying, dude. It's been very, very rewarding, and it's so interesting too, because it's come back on, against the old adage, right? If you really want to see what you know, teach it.
Yeah, right.
Thing. And so I literally tell people, I'm like, dude, this is actually like one of the most selfish things that I've ever done, because as I go out there and I teach it to people, and I help them and I coach them and everything, so much stuff becomes evident that I turn back and I go, when am I doing that? Right. What about this? What about that? Or, oh, that's so interesting. I was just talking about this. I've never thought about it from that. So I end up walking away getting more. It's kind of funny almost that, people come and pay me to do it. And I'm like, I should be paying you, because really, it's like, I feel like I'm getting more out of it.
Right. And I concur. And also, yeah, the life, it's amazing when you do a read on someone, go way deep, and then you realize, oh, hang on a tick. That's what's in my life at the moment. And
Mhm.
often you have to have that moment or the skill set to be able to go, is that me or is that them or is that us?
My
And I
projector
choose
will happen.
yeah. So therefore, choosing the highest good is the greatest statement that I know. I choose to serve the highest good. If that's the case, then is this the truth? And your body just gives you a response straight away. It's like, oh, yeah, actually, you can learn from this as well. But it is actually appropriate to offer this up for this person. Just because you get it, it doesn't mean it's right. You know, the greatest momentum shifter in life is timing. It really is timing. That someone hearing the right thing at the wrong time can do a massive amount of damage. But hearing the wrong thing can also do damage. It really, you can't judge it. And that's in the moment. And it changes from moment to moment. And then once you name it, as you've seen, once you name it, that truth could change. The truth is only valid in the moment that you ask it. And the very moment that you name the truth, it changes because somehow it now comes into the field. And I've seen this with operators, and I'd love to have your take on it, of an experience where they're in the field and, you know, we had the luxury of when you're special forces, your rank, the lowest of ranks, still has a chance to put forward their opinion about what's taking place. That they have great leaders that are not hung up on being the absolute person making the decision. They're taking the feedback from those team members to go, what's your take on it? And you could be the lowest of lowest, a private who just goes, something's not right. I just got a bad feeling about this, and it's to do with timing, whatever it is. And when you present that amount of information that is the truth, all of a sudden the truth changes. Everyone's like, the beauty is an officer who's gone through selection has the ability to weigh it up and go, I'll go with my feeling on this, and then pass it up the chain that it doesn't feel right. And up the chain is like, we've got operational demands right here, but you're the man on the ground. So we trust your choice on this, which is fantastic. Have you got an example or something like that for the listeners where something like that came to the fore for you?
Oh, 100%, dude. I mean, that's the great thing about training and skill actually that goes around. You know, there was a really famous story too. I was not on this op or anything like that, to make it clear. But when talking to guys about that exact thing, right? Dev group team 6 was going in, you know, to grab bin Laden and do a lot of that sort of stuff. And they were literally testing for every single contingency that was going around, right? They're sitting around the table, they're talking, this happens, what if that happens, what if this happens, what if that happens, blah, 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 blah. And finally it goes all the way around and they do exactly that thing. They ask every single person, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? What could go wrong? It doesn't matter who the fuck you are, whether you're the senior guy in the squadron or you're the guy who just got there, the other thing. Everyone has a say, right? And it finally gets to the most junior guy at the squadron. And they're like, hey, dude, what do you think? And he's like looking around and he goes, well, we talked about what happened if one of our helos goes down. They go, right. He goes, what if both go down? What if we lose both birds on the way in? That's actually what happened on the op.
Right. Right.
Both birds had an engine failure on the way in.
Right. And had ready teams ready at the border to be able to come across and cover the Chinooks. Yeah, I'd heard a similar story.
But it's because that one guy trusted his instincts to say, I'm going to ask the obvious question that might make me look very stupid, but I'm going to trust my instinct and that I've honed my instincts and I've honed my education and my experience, that if something's gnawing at me, it's probably because I'm an idiot. There's that self-trust. And he's what if both birds go down?
And that's the benefits of a system too, that vets the people that are in that room have valid takes on things. You start with 1,000 guys, you end up with a dozen that pass, selection 20, whatever it is, whether it's BUDS or Command or SAS. And they're passing, they've got to that level where their voice is to be heard. They've earned the right to be heard. And I see this in a lot of sporting teams talking back and forth, is that some of them haven't earned the right to be heard. But at the same time, there's not a culture there that supports that as well. It's the X factor we talked about earlier on. which is a whole world of performance that we can go way deep into.
So I realized this about myself through this whole journey. I am insanely, fearsomely independent. I want nothing to do with anybody 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Like I really do, you know? Um, even when I was operating all the time, I loved where I went into the special reconnaissance side where I was by myself. Like I didn't even want to deal with the guys. I just
Uh-huh.
wanted to be by myself, all the time. I hate having to deal with other people 99% of the time. Right. So, and then especially when you get into like in mass, general all the people with their fear and their uncertainty and their reactivity and their emotional horseshit. And then to be drugged down into that with everybody else when I'm like, dude, I got plans. I've got a mission that I'm on and you guys are throwing it up.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I can't decouple from it. It literally feels like a violation of my sovereignty.
A violation of your sovereignty. It's interesting. I've seen a consistent thread amongst operators that though it's we few, we lucky few, it's a chance to be with our brothers and fight for the bloke beside us. That's what drives us. Not for king and country, certainly not for presidents, but it's for the bloke beside you. We love that. At the same time, though, that fierce independence is, I need to get away from you blokes. I really do, and be on my own. Part of the SAS selection procedure is something called the Happy Wanderer, which is you do navigation in the outback and you got to hit these points. But they call it the Happy Wanderer because they want to see how you go by yourself being out there.
Yeah.
And it's always the same measure. The blokes who kill that, they love it. Like on commando selection, I certainly love that part of it. I hit 50 plus Ks in that 24-hour period and hit just about more targets than anybody else because I love that. I love just being in the wilderness by myself. At the same time, I want to be with my buddies, but it has to be that duality of both of them. So it's been a consistent thread, and I definitely see that through selection when they're looking at commandos teams, swift strike abilities and more the reconnaissance abilities of an SA. They have this more independence of, we're just going to stick you in a cave in Afghanistan and you're going to live off the land for a month in a wall gathering reconnaissance.
Yeah.
And these blokes are happy as hell. They're like, yeah, all right, okay. But then you come back and going to be in the team. Great. It's that balance of the both of them. Did you find the same sort of thing amongst
100%, 100%. And there's guys I know, for me at least, it's also like one of those things where I don't necessarily have to be completely by myself, but I only want to be with the people that I want to be around.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to have dead weight, like flat out, and that's the great thing about Spec Ops is there's very, very, very little of it. But even in the community, right, there's the guys that you get along with better and there's the guys that you don't, right? Like it just is what it is. You're going to have your like couple really good mates where it's like, dude, I'll tell you what, Kirk and I will go out in the outback for like a week and a half together and we'll just go and the rest of you guys can just go piss off and we're just going to go do our thing and we'll take care of everything together and like we're just going to handle it and it'll all be done, and that sort of a thing. But especially that was one of the biggest things about getting back into the civilian world where all of a sudden you're thrust into groups of people that haven't gone to selection, that have and all of a sudden you're forced to treat them as a teammate, quote unquote, or your success or failure is tied to them. And you're like, I don't want to pick any of you people. Like I would rather just do it myself. Why, like you just drag me down. Why do
the power of a selection procedure
100%.
That's been weathered over time to look at how do we weed out those that just don't have it in it. They're all hard. They're all fit. They're all smart by the selection procedure of even turning up on a Buds week or a commando selection or an SAS selection. You're all at that level, but then they're trying to weed out those who have the ability to just get the job done. It doesn't mean anything about you. There's no room for emotion in combat. To just get the job done, whatever that task is that you've been delivered. And secondly, look after your mates. Thirdly, have a good time. That became the essence of the luck bubble to try and streamline the selection procedure that I created. Because when it comes to, and I see this a lot with working with vets coming out of the operational scene, the SF, it's like, the person I'm with at the moment who expected to get something done in the civilian world is not at the standard that I require to get this done. He has not earned my respect.
Yep. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So how did you handle going from operator to coming out of that? Like, you chose a very out there career change. I mean, you going into performance art was the other extreme, going from no heart to all heart.
Mm-hmm.
Or they say the skin of a rhinoceros and the heart of a rose. Talk
Well,
me through that transition.
yeah, it's really interesting too, because I realized that a lot of it, surprisingly, is actually applicable, because there's a lot of things in the entertainment industry, right? In the acting world, like this sort of things like that. Like, for example, when I went to like a grad school style program, right? I did not have the training nor the experience to be in that program. I just didn't, right?
Mm.
I was too early. I was too this, I was too that. And yet later, when I talked to the head of the program and was kind of like, why'd you let me in here? He flat out told me, he goes, because you work so hard. And he's like, I can't teach talent. You know, you can't, like, talent is this, that. He's like, but at the end of the day, it's typically, even in the arts, it's not the person that's the most talented. It's not this, it's not that. It's the person that shows up and controls and does everything within their power to actually do it. It costs, and I'll tell people when I work with actors now, right? And they're coming to me for coaching, or they're on a set or something like that, or they're coming into an audition. And I'm like, dude, it takes zero talent, zero education, zero anything to learn your lines, make some choices, and show up prepared. That takes no whatsoever. Anybody can do it.
Right. Was it Tom Hanks who said, it's pretty simple, turn up on time, know your lines, come in with an idea?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, Will Smith, said after he won one of his, I think he won his Oscar or whatever the case, and he goes, I've always considered myself to be of extremely average talent with an unnatural desire to prepare.
Yeah. He was well known for that ethic, well known for that work ethic.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that I realized, even, you go out to selection, there's the physical, there's the physical ability that you just have to have, I mean, I know a lot of guys that I went to buds with or something like that, huge hearts, they just weren't there. They just didn't have that athletic gift that they would ever be able to run that many miles that fast. It just wasn't going to happen for them, and that sucks, But far more often, I saw people that had the physical tools that completely lacked the mental tools. I mean, they say all the time, over 80% of it is all mental. And a lot of that stuff, I mean, it's like, we talk about, some of the difference, when guys go to Green Team for Dev Group, and things like that. And I talked to, I didn't go to Green Team, but I have all of my teammates that did, and all sort of stuff. And, talk to them. What's that?
Who stayed in?
Yeah, who stayed. And they went over to this and everything. And I would ask them, I was like, hey, what's the process over there? And they're like, bro, it's really just attention to detail under high stress. Like, there's just now another level of expectation to you where it's like, you're going to PhD program, you're doing, you're doing your doctoral studies. They're like, yeah, we know you're hard. We know this, we know all that sort of stuff. How much stress can you take, and how fast can you learn things and continuously stack new skills, new skills, new skills, new skills. And like you said, take the emotion out of it, where there's, I was talking to a psychologist who used to work, he did time at CAG Delta. And he was a dev group and everything like that. And I was talking to him for a while, and I said, asking about some of the through lines of everything. And I was like, what do you notice? And he goes, operators that can operate at extremely high levels, like at those units or things like that. He's like, have the ability to completely detach from emotion and to learn a high risk, complex skill set in a very short amount of time under very high stress circumstances. And completely detach from the emotion, in that what they do is if they come in there and they dick it up or something, all of a sudden I come over to you do a house run and something, and I come over and I go, hey, Kirk, that was all dicked up, mate. And here's why. This is what you did that was fucked. This is what you need to do. And you go, roger that. And you walk out and you come right in and you do it. And I go, okay, cool. Now I want you to do it. And blah, there's no attaboys. you did what you were supposed, like, you don't need that reinforcement,
Right.
like, okay, I did it right. That's the reinforcement that I needed. I don't need people to be like, you're so
Simple as
good.
that, right?
Yeah. It's just clinical, and all of a sudden
Clinical. In the training phase, it's all about that ability to make the mistake, learn from that mistake, and not make that mistake again.
right. And don't take the mistake personal.
Absolutely. It's just get the job done.
It's just
Get
take
the job done.
So
It
when
doesn't mean anything about you. It's interesting because you see that on selection. You see guys we had world-class athletes turn up, Olympic athletes. We had a program out here. We were trying to get athletes involved into commando selection. And some of them you could see there were times where they just would lose their shit because they had the physical capability, but they didn't have the resources around them. They couldn't eat the food they wanted. They couldn't get the sleep in that they needed. And so they would fall apart. And that's okay, falling apart, but they learn to build that nervous system regulation, that ability to cope under stress, not just cope, but excel. So my question to you is, when you went from this survival vortex, if you want to call it that, of nervous system regulation under intense amounts of pressure, how did you go from that when you left being an operator to not having that stress, but still regulating your nervous system? Because I see it flip the other way. Guys that come out of the stress, they can't handle not having stress. Their nervous system regulation goes out the window because there is no stress. Have you seen much of that?
So, and there's another great topic that we could talk about, so when I first came out, I had a very hard time learning, specifically acting, right? I had a very hard time starting to learn the craft and be in acting. And I was just not making strides. I wasn't getting good. I wasn't this and I wasn't that. And I didn't know why. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. Like, what is this? And then what I eventually learned was the first thing I needed to learn was the way that I learned and to learn a new way of learning. And that's directly applicable. I'm not trying to be obfuscatory there, but I was trying to attack acting the same way I clear a fucking room or do jujitsu or do something like that. And I didn't realize I was literally using the wrong part of my brain, and I was going about it, the methodology to learn, the methodology to get it right, all these sort of things. The tools that I was bringing to bear had served me incredibly well, getting through select, being a combative, a competitive martial artist. But it was all that same vein of thing, right? And when I got into the acting world as an art, it blew my mind to say, hey man, think about all this, but don't think about anything. Do this, but don't do anything. Living in that amorphous and learning how to redefine success as a process rather, as a developmental process of saying my success as an actor is in the way that I prepare, making my choices, doing this, doing that. What actually ultimately happens on the day in the moment really isn't where success is defined or not. Like getting into that amorphous zone. That was the thing that I first had to learn how to do, which is directly in line with everything that you and I have been working on. Remember, you told me so long ago where, when we first started working together and you were giving me some notes and we were like, hey, dude, your mind has brought you so far. In order to take the next thing, you have to realize that the mind, unfortunately, is the enemy. It's not serving you right now. Just like in my acting, my mind, my physics, all the tools that I had learned was not serving me. And I first had to learn that it wasn't serving me and identify what would serve me and start to work that muscle instead. Just like when we're doing this, where you're like, dude, don't figure the problem out. Just sit in the problem.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like the fact that you're trying to escape it is the problem. The solution is to sit that idea, right? Which is the similar concepts in acting, right? Don't try to solve the problem of acting. We want to see you just be in just be in the problem.
Right. Which is a complete different change to being an operator where you need to solve problems. We have a problem. We have an execution. Here's the mission. Here's what needs done. Get it done. And then to go the full scope of the other side, which is why I find it so fascinating. You drop into this world of this vulnerability, which is to be in the unknown. To be in the unknown and to cope with the unknown. So the structure of that nervous system regulation stays the same as a bridge, which is get the job done. But the task is different. The job is not to solve the problem in acting. The job is to be in the emotion, is to be in your heart, is to be in your softness, to be able to hear, to feel, to open up your senses. That's the job. And people mistake that. They think their job is reading the script, getting the lines. No, it's coming with an idea, which is I'm open and responding to the unknown. As opposed to an operator, which is we're going in the unknown, but we've got an idea. And then as soon as that first shot is fired down range or at me, it just misses me, that plane goes out the window. But you still got the task. What's the operational imperative?
Exactly.
What do we need to get done here?
Exactly.
You've done that well, but it was a wrestle. Let's, I've known you for some time now, and it's been a wrestle to get you. I'm so proud of you because you come so far in who you are as a person that you didn't need to project anymore. And as soon as that started falling away, and you're open with being the unknown, things really started to gain momentum for you in a beautiful way, which I'm really proud of you for.
Well, they did, and that ideology, shifting everything that we just said, ultimately led me to certain other principles, psychologically, philosophically, and all these sorts of things that I started to really investigate and then to develop time into and to start to learn about and to adopt in these sorts of things. And what they ended up doing was leading me to a point of wanting to hone certain internal ideologies and mechanisms and all this sort of things. And then you see them ripple out. And I'm not sure I ever would have gotten that if I hadn't been forced to develop this new section of the brain. And now I have both of those tools. It's no problem when I go out on the gun range, I teach a combatives class or whatever, just to lock back in and be like, dude, this is how you hold the gun, motherfucker. Like, I don't care. This is how it actually goes, and there's a very distinctive, process for doing that. But because I kind of had to learn both, and then I had to reconcile both and figure out, like, how can both of these be true in a different environment? Both of these techniques are equally effective in their appropriate environment, and both of them are woefully inadequate in the wrong environment.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get into be a brain surgeon. If you're trying to be a brain surgeon, you want the first one, right? You know the way it needs to be done, and you're taking care, and you're cutting the emotion out and everything like that. And it's not
clinical.
We'll see how it goes. No, we have a distinct way we want this brain surgery to go. Way.
You want that guy. Yep.
Right, exactly. So getting into that, but then understanding and going, wait, and it led me back to all these other concepts, a lot of Marcus Aurelius and Stoic philosophy principles of understanding the value of controlling and what the control means in that example. Like controlling something in the arts or something could be like what we were just saying, controlling my preparation, right? How do I follow up? What choices do I make? How do I do this? How do I do that? Memorizing my script, doing my work, so to speak. And then ultimately, I have no control over what my scene partner does. I don't know what the director's going to tell me. I don't know that the freaking lights aren't going to fail, or we're going to do a whole different scene. I don't know any of that, right? And I can't control that, right? But what I can do is control my process to the point of mastery, if you will, so that I am enabled to flex to whatever the outside world actually throws at me. And then and it's interesting because it's kind of like what we talk for, it's very similar to a little bit of what we discuss with manifestation and things like that. When you have a distinctive outcome that you are nailed down to, the pathway becomes rigid and oftentimes resistant or unresponsive. But when instead you focus on things like living as if, having a what I like to call like the soft focus. I kind of look at my end goals, when I choose end results, almost like I have the target, but it's the fuzzy, the hazy target over the front sights of the weapon and everything. Because that allows for that relaxation and me not to have to like hold it dead center on the one thing. I have that loose the soft focus, right, on what's going on.
You're talking about that soft focus, that end result, that the way it feels, the essence of it, if you will. We've done symbolism work before you become very, very good at it. That rather than depict exactly the way it looks, It's what is the way it makes me feel, because that's a real resonance in the body. If you want to get into vibration, I see a lot of this ability to create within people when they start dropping into the way that it feels rather than the way that it looks. How that translated actually working with on the range is this ability with a handgun to, rather than looking, as we're taught, straight down the sights, lining them up and getting the shot away under pressure, there's this ability to know that no matter where the weapon is, you actually kind of know where it's going. It's that fuzziness you talk about. And that's that ability to shoot with instinct where it's hitting center mass, but you're not aiming the weapon. It's coming from your hip. It's a quick draw, or it's even from a side, that awareness of where the muzzle is pointing is actually going to hit center mass. And that was a breakthrough for a lot of guys that I've worked with on the range, for them to go, oh my God, I actually don't need to line up. I have this sixth sense that kind of knows in space, spatial awareness, where that round's going to end up without looking straight down the line, without getting to the technique. I know the way it feels and where it's going. And that haziness that you talked about, wow, that was a breakthrough for quite a few on the range.
Well, and you're right. And I mean, obviously we're talking about instinctive fire there, right? And it's so great that we know that, and the book that we both first, kind of came together and started talking about, Psycho-Cybernetics, right?
Maxwell Maltz, one of the greats, one of the original works.
Yeah. And Dr. Maltz talks about, he has one of his board concepts of that book is which is literally that he equates to like the guidance system on a missile. That when the missile knows its target, it doesn't matter if the wind comes in or if elevation is or whatever, it has that instinctive fire where it doesn't have to know the perfect way, because it has the end result that's actually going down there. Just like when we know, oh, that's my target over there, we can instinctive fire. The subconscious success mechanism will lead our body language and our way of being. We don't have to look at it directly. We don't have to know all that, and just guide it. The way that we hold the weapon, the way that we do this, the way that we do that goes all the way down. You see the same thing. There's so many people with, they get so good at that exact same thing right there. Pro football. Right? We see it in football. When some massive quarterback goes out there and he goes to chuck the ball, he's not looking at where his hand's pointed or how he's holding the ball or any of this. He just knows. And
instinctive firing.
He can read the person. Yeah, he's instinctively firing. He knows the way that the guy's moving. He can feel the range. He couldn't tell you why he chose to do it on that exact angle or this or that. It's just that his subconscious mind was reading the telemetry of everything that was going in through muscle memory, just like instinctive fire with the gun. You couldn't say, oh, it just felt right to point like this into fire. That's what felt correct, and there's magic in that.
There's a real magic in that science is only just coming to try and explain, to try and correlate. But the mystics have always known it. You go into some of the tribes I've been with, their ability to shoot a blow dart or to fire a bow and arrow. They are not aiming. No. It's instinctual for them. You see them get shots away so quickly with their bows, so quickly with primitive weapons, but the shot is away with instinct so quickly before the prey can get away. And same with, you look at Tom Brady, someone who will go down as perhaps the greatest, certainly at this point in time, the greatest quarterback in history. And he was 99 in the draft. I mean, he still has some of the worst times ever at the combine.
Yeah.
Because someone said he looked like Gumby when he was running, trying to do a 40-yard dash. But his ability to instinctively fire, to instinctively read, to know. And that's where his training came into its fore, was working on the mental aspect of it. The mental, the energetic, to go further with it, the energetic aspect of it, which is pick your target the way it feels. You know what it feels like. Pick your end result. You know what that feels like. Create and adjust. Step into the unknown. Create and adjust as an actor. This is my goal for the scene, but create and adjust. As an athlete, this is my end result, but create and adjust. I'm an operator. This is a task, but create and adjust when the rounds come down range and I've got a bullet in me. Create and adjust. Great way to live.
It's fantastic. And when I tell people about that, whenever I'm coaching or I'm working with all this sort of stuff, and I tell them that ability to create and adjust, that subconscious belief, that feeling, all that sort of stuff, that is the masterful conglomeration of training and experience and all of these things coming to fruition on an instinctive I was like, you can train that over lots of period of time. Like only a person who has spent countless amounts of time on a gun range and doing this and handled a gun, knows how recoil works, can develop and just go boom and just pull, because they just know at that point in time, because they've done it so much.
And that layering of skills under more and more pressure, that layering of skills, the important thing, that pyramid of building up the base skills up and up and up until you get to a zone of mastery where you drop into that ability to do that. It's the same in every sport or every endeavor.
Exactly. Tom Brady can go out there and chuck a ball and put it into any hole that he possibly wants, while a bunch of Neanderthals are about to knock his head off, while people are running with screaming fans on, because he's done it God knows how many times under stress and pressure for 30 years. He's doing it.
Yeah.
So he can just,
and again, I see that the ultimate moving forward within sports is nervous system regulation. As with anybody, in any endeavor, but within sports specifically, is energetically removing the things that get in the way of you playing to your highest potential. Because a team doesn't lose and have a bad day because they didn't have the skills. It's because they weren't in the pocket. They weren't in the zone. Oh, something was missing. No. You just had your stuff that got in the way.
Yes.
That did not allow your nervous system to regulate. It's as simple as that. And it's the big X factor that athletes are not addressing.
In that, what you just said right there, your shit that got in the way, that is universally applicable to everything, like all the way through life, right? Have you read the book, or are you familiar with the book Reality Transurfing?
The Dim Zealand, I think he's Russian or Ukrainian?
Russian.
If I'm wrong. Russian. Yeah. Interesting cat.
Okay. Have you read the book? Or are you familiar with it or anything like that?
I'm familiar with the work. Yeah, but I haven't read the book.
He is, if I'm remembering correctly, he's Russian astrophysicist and a quantum physicist. And not an idiot, right? Not an idiot at all. And so when he got
but Kenny Cook.
I don't know.
What's he like as a lover?
Yeah, who knows? But he wrote this incredible book on manifestation and everything, to which he agrees. He's like, or to which he writes, he's like, listen, this isn't magic. This is math. This is energy. This is this, that, and that. But so he talks about these core concepts. And one of the one that he talks about is this concept that he calls excess potential. And there's another one about pendulum and pedestalizing things and anything like that. But the bottom line is, when you put something on a pedestal, you make it too important, right? That's where this thing called excess potential comes in. And he gives this analogy, it's like, it's no big deal. A person could, he says, if I put a 2x4 on the floor and I told you to walk across it, you could do it with no problem whatsoever, right? You would never even think about it. You could just run right across it and everything will be fine. But if I put it 50 feet up in the air, let's even say that there's no environmental factor, right? Like maybe it's in a warehouse. So there's no wind, there's and it's just 50 feet up in a warehouse, 50 feet above the ground. All of a sudden it gets infinitely harder, but that's your shit making it harder. The fear, the stakes have gotten worse, but the stakes for failure have gotten worse. But the act itself has not gotten any more difficult. Right?
Purely your perception of the ramifications of getting this wrong. And you've gone from an end result of enjoying yourself to don't fuck this up. How many people do we know that are stuck in don't fuck this up? How many times do we see an artist that is performing who gets stuck in their head on a set because they don't want to fuck it up? They've gone out of play and the magic of the unknown to fear, a nervous system regulation that's fallen out.
Right. And it's regulation. And the irony is, the more that we allow that to happen, the more likely it is to happen. The more nervous we get on that 2x4, the more likely it is that we fall. Not because walking across the 2x4 got any more difficult, but because our own nervous system fucked us.
Right. Fucked us royally. Don't think of the pink elephant. Don't think of the pink elephant. Whatever you do. Right now, I can see that pink elephant. It's got a tutu. It's got nail polish.
Put a little flour in his nose, like
Right.
all,
I had an
like,
interesting exercise once where we used to go, okay, with as much further as you believe it's going to get fucked up, you've got to put as much further into it working out. It's like,
mhm.
ah, damn it. No matter what I do, I'm successful. God damn it. I
Oh,
hate
so bad.
this.
Yeah.
I hate how it's working out for me all the time, just relentlessly. God, come on.
Why does
Give me a
everything
break here.
always
Stop things
better?
working out for me. And the
Yeah.
person I was working with had the best week of his life. Absolutely killed it. But it was the thing that just changed his nervous system. You can even have anxiety and anger around it, but it's nervous system regulation. It's emotion. It's an essence of the end result that no matter what I do, this thing is just going to work out and I can't help it. Put some anger in it. Put some
Yeah.
joy in it,
Yeah.
but put some energy in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the vibration. It's not thinking about it. It's not seeing it. It's not the vision board and hoping about it. It's the imagination. It's the childlike wonder. And I've just started doing more and more of these dicking about days, these discovery days in the wilderness with some incredible results because it's just a chance to unplug and let
Mhm.
what is there come out.
Yeah.
It's low stakes and very high whimsy. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. People say, well, but what's the outcome? So I don't know, mate. They're like, what? I'm paying $5,000 for this. So trust me, it'll be worth it, but you can't judge it until afterwards because you're
Right.
stuck in this has to take place before I can get what I want. That's the exact thing I need to get you out of. I need to get your nervous system back into its perfection
Mhm.
because under pressure, not under pressure, it's the same thing.
Dude, and it's such a great thing too. I think, that's a little bit of where some of these things that when I was talking about, kind of investigating this way of being, right, opened up new fascinations and new pathways and new curiosities for me of looking back on things. And when I got down into it, people talk about and basically, and I hate to use this term because I think it's overly used right now, but I will for the sake of this, but this whole idea of self-worth and being the prize and not in so I've been working with a lot of my clients from like either my neuropsych clients or some of my dating coach clients, a lot of the
Mhm.
guys in there and all that sort of stuff. And it's one of the biggest things that I come in there. I'm like, dude, as soon as you can develop an attitude and an understanding of wholeness and authenticity and
Mm,
acceptance of yourself,
mm.
you will be amazed. The sooner you get to a point where you really don't need stuff from other people because you find a way to give it to yourself, you will be amazed at how much shit people start giving you.
Finding
Like,
wholeness in this whole mess that is me,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
what a leap forward as opposed to going after a task, make the task yourself, like you did. You went through that phase, man. And kudos to you for leaning to, oh, it's not out there.
no,
It's me.
it's me.
It's me. Do I love me? No one's going to love me more than I love me.
Right.
So if I am the prize and I view myself as the prize, what resistance do I actually have of calling myself the prize? I'm not
Yeah,
perfect. In fact,
no,
I'm pretty fucked up in certain ways, but you know what? It is
doesn't
who I
matter.
am and I'm on this journey and I'm okay with that. And when you
Yeah,
become okay with loving yourself,
yes.
then the world opens up as you experience firsthand. And now you've taken on to other clients as well.
And Kirk, it's this amazing thing, through some of the wonders of, some neuropsychological phenomenon, mirror neurons and a lot of stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
Subconsciously communicate to the outside world how it should treat us. And then we take that treatment we take that treatment as proof that our beliefs are accurate,
Right.
completely unbeknownst to us that we created that through reflection. We
Yeah.
literally told the people how to treat us.
Uh-huh.
And
And if they don't treat us the way that we expect, then we misbehave to provoke that from them.
yes, we
Therein
create,
lies the misbehavior that creates the very reality, the thing that pisses you off. You'd rather be right that no one likes you than actually happy. Yes,
right,
and when they're not, when they turn up and they do love you, you don't like or trust that person. How could I trust a person that would like me?
right.
I never
Yeah.
wanted to be a member of a club that would have me.
Yeah.
How dare they? How dare they?
Yeah.
Why don't you like that person? Oh, there's just something about him. No, it's because it's your own view of yourself being reflected in the world. and you're dedicated to being right about it.
Mhm.
And therein lies the very essence of your problem over and over and over again.
'Cause it's comfortable. It's expected. It's safe. Not even if it's
So,
not fun. Yeah, it's safe,
oh, I
but
can relax now. The world is as I see it, which is I'm not enough, or I'm not
better
worthy, or no one likes me. No one
better the
loves me.
devil I know, better the devil I know, like, whatever, and I'm like, "Dude, how fucked up is that?" You would literally in a
Correct.
predictive, familiar pattern that's freaking miserable, then go into the unknown
Mhm.
that may be infinitely better, but God, it's scary because it's unknown, and our nervous system does not like that.
Mhm. The client that came in, I did a read on him and went, "Huh, you don't trust." He's like, "Huh?" I said, "Yeah, your partner, like you have like severe like trust issues." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." No, that's not the case. I said, "Yeah, I actually get that your partner, you're so extremely jealous." And his pupils dilated and he said, "What do you mean? Why are you talking about my partner?" I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hang on a minute. I'm just here to be a reflection here and tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I find out that I'm like, hey, yeah, hang on a tick. Yeah, this is what I get. I didn't know, but I had to go with what I got. That, yeah, you're so jealous of your partner that you get them under lock and key. Once you win them over, you put them under lock and key, and you need to know where they are at all times. And that after 2 years of that, she got drunk and had sex with your brother. He said, "See, I told you I couldn't trust her."
Yeah. It's like,
And
"No,
I'm
that
like,
was
dude,
I
you
was
didn't even
really
trust
that
her.
finger."
You
It
pushed her to that. You misbehaved in such a way that she loved you anyway. And it took 2 years of her loving you anyway, even though you didn't trust her, for her to go, fuck this shit. I'm just going to give you what you want. And then you went, see, I told you so. It's like that joke, which is, he says to the wife, "You're breaking up with me because you think I know everything." And she
Mhm.
said, "Yes." He says, "See, I told you."
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
We'd rather be right than happy. And the
Yeah.
amount of people who don't know what's going on is 99.999% of the population. And they're blaming their pain on the world. And the gateway for them seeing their pain is knowing what angers them, what gets the immediate reaction out of them, what gets the heat coming out of them. That is the gateway. It's not a red flag. It's a portal. It's a portal to understanding the self that is in your face, I guarantee, a dozen times a day, as we've learned and as we've seen with clients. It's not out there. It's in here. And the
Always.
gateway is the anger, without a doubt.
Yeah. What
Sorry, mate.
triggers
Right? Got on the soapbox then for a minute. It's like,
No,
it just
it's
made me
perfect.
laugh.
But it's one of those things, it's like I'll work with clients, I'm sure you've been in the same. I talk to all these guys where it's like getting somebody will get it, they'll come and I mean, typically by the time they're seeing you or they're seeing me or they're seeing some of my other doctor buddies or something like that, it's not typically because life's going well, right? Because
Yeah, right.
something's like, I'm going
Yeah,
through
unfortunately, it's usually stage 4 cancers when by the time they go, it's either their health problems or it's a relationship problems or it's a wealth problem. Usually they've lost everything. It's like, I'm losing it. I got to fucking get some help now. Even though the red flags have been there, the chances, the opportunities have been there for years leading up to it. They don't want to do the work on themselves. They want to keep the
right.
status quo until there's too much pain. And sorry, man, I cut you off, but yeah, I concur.
But that's literally it, right? And so there's that thing though, where so often when people come in those sorts of situations and I'll sit there and, I was telling a guy a couple months ago, and it's kind of like what you were talking about, it's like, I think that you're jealous, or whatever. And I'm sitting there and, his life's this and that and the other thing and just all this sort of thing. And, and just I'm listening to the words that he's saying about himself, about just the way he's talking to me. Right.
Mhm.
And I finally go, listen, dude, I can tell you something right now. And you're not going to like it. It's going to sting. It's going to hurt. But I promise you it's true. And if you sit with it and you understand that I'm here to help, I'm here trying to help you. Like, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help you, but I know I need to tell you this thing in order to help you. And you're not going to like this thing. But if you take this on, I promise it will change your life.
Mhm.
And he was like, what? And I go, it's your fault.
How'd he take it?
Blew up at first. He's like, what do you mean it's my fucking fault? Like, I would have never done that. I would never choose. I'm like, no, I'm not saying you consciously did that,
Mhm.
but you are acting out these subconscious patterns of behavior, all these sorts of things, like everything that you were just talking about with your guy. I'm like, but here's the good news. If you look around at your world right now and you sit there and go, this sucks, and I hate this. But then you sit there and go, but I created it. I created it by my choices, by my interpretations, by my responses, by my everything like that. The good news is that we can change it. If you think that you're a victim in it and it was done to you, that may feel morally righteous in the moment, and it may feel that, but it also means that you are powerless. You cannot have power without responsibility. If you want power to change a situation, you have to accept the responsibility that you've always created this situation. Unwillingly, unknowingly, like you did. I'm not saying you consciously went out there and did it, but
Right.
you did it nonetheless. And if you accept that, then you also accept the inherent power to change it. You
Yeah.
know, and it's amazing how many people don't want to do that. They
Just don't.
would rather be a comfortable victim rather than a
Take the
uncertain,
power back.
right? Rather than an uncertain creator, they would rather be a comfortable victim.
Right. I remember my great friend and one of my mentors, William Whitecloud, who taught me the use of intuition, saying to me once about powerlessness is anger. When you have anger, it's because you feel powerless to change something that you think means something about you. That's why it makes you angry, because you can't change it. Once again, the bastards, I can't trust them because you think you can't change that. That's what makes you angry. That's the trigger. Anywhere you feel anger, it's because you actually feel powerless about something that you think means something about you. An external event has happened and you have reacted to it with anger, with rage, because you deep down believe you can't change that thing. And the mission, the meaning of life, know thyself, is to understand what that thing is that you don't think you can change about you, that you don't like, but you're creating over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And that is where everyone should learn this skill, not so they can forecast or read people or manipulate people, but to know thyself. Because the conscious mind, as we know, doesn't want to solve that shit, doesn't want to resolve it. If that's the way it is, Jung said it best before he died. The best we can hope for is to think about the thing we love more often than think about the thing that's messing us up. And always talking about it, getting collusion about it, probably isn't going to move the needle much. You can step out of the environment. Intuition can be a way that we can step in and go through what's obvious about you. It's not psychic ability as we know. It's just, this is what's obvious about you. And let's be honest, it fucking hurts to realize that moment. Do you remember the moment in time where I remember the moment in time I realized, I was like, holy shit, it's not them, it's me. Do you remember that moment?
Yes, I do.
Crystal clear moment. Talk me through it. What happened?
Well, it was that thing, and I won't use the names just because not sure what this, but the first time when we started working, when I was going through that horrible breakup, right, that shattered me so much, and I swear, I mean, this is like burned into my mind. It couldn't be anymore. And it brought me to another thing: not always seeing things through the lens of what I wanted or expected, rather than seeing them as they are. Right. Every time since then, when I've gotten into problems with like girls, for example, I've had a girl that was always like that. It was always because I wasn't seeing what she was showing me. I was seeing what I wanted to see, whether it was good or bad. Right. So there were girls that were clearly giving off every red flag, but I'm sitting there trying to see it the way I want to. Oh no, she really likes me. She just needs something like that, but again, it's my shit. Right? It's my shit. Just step back and go, well, she's clearly making true. Right?
Right.
But with this particular girl, it was the reverse. Every single thing she was saying, everything she was doing was, Dave, I love you dearly. I want to be, but I was making up red flags. She was giving me every green light. I was making up red flags because it was literally that. It was like what you were giving that example before, like, oh, people don't like it. It was my shit, right? My beliefs, right? So what I did was literally in the back of my, and Kirk, I swear this is exact. I know we've talked about it, but for the video, this could not have been more shocking to me. In that she was doing all these things. She's saying all these things. To which I ignored all of them and I'm like, yeah, you think that, you believe that now, but really it's going to be because I thought I always knew better, right? Like I
Right.
always knew, right? You know, because I wanted it through my lens of expectation rather than through the reality that was being shown to me, right? And so I kept going all the way down with this stuff. And I had this whole list in the back of my mind about everything that was going to go wrong in the future, right?
Already, without any signs that it was gonna.
Yeah, exactly. With no signs. I was just I was so scared. But here's the thing. I loved that girl so much. I was so terrified that these things were going to happen. And so I had this board of things that I was terrified was going to happen. And so what happens? I get so clever. I start to take steps to prevent these unseen monsters from ever happening. Right?
Giving it energy.
Yes. And then literally every single one of them happened. And after we broke up, I will never forget this. I will never forget this, Kirk. Right when everything was coming apart, and I'm literally watching everything that I had dreaded in my mind. Never spoke aloud. I just guessed. I just feared them. And I when I took all these steps, like all these things, right, to prevent these horrible tragedies from happening. They all came to fruition. And we're breaking up and I'm sitting there and I'm asking her, I'm like, don't do this, don't leave, like blah, 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 blah. And she goes, Dave, I'll never understand it. It's like the whole time we've been together, you've been thinking that like this or this or this. And she literally named every single thing that I had on my fearful bulletin board, everything. I never once did I ever say a single one of them aloud to her. But she could tell through my behavior, through the way that I talked to her. She could feel what I was scared of.
The feminine just feels. They don't talk. They don't listen. They feel.
She knew. And she literally listed them like a bullet point. She said, Dave, it's like you've thought this and then this and then this and then this. And I went, yes. Well, look what happened. And she goes, David, you did this. This only happened because you did that. This only happened because you said this. I told you about this, and you told me that. She was 100% right. 100%. I created the exact thing that I was terrified of with masterful precision. Masterful. Like, it was uncanny. Every single thing I was scared of, I created into the world and pushed her to it.
So that's what happened then. But when was the moment that you realized that that's what you did? Because I guarantee you didn't see it at that point in time. You were just filthy that what you had feared had turned up.
Yes. So I was in that argument. So then about a couple weeks later, after that exact moment where she's like, David, you did this, right? And she laid it down. That's when I picked up Psycho-Cybernetics.
Ooh.
And I was reading the book, and I was reading this specifically. I was reading the chapter where Dr. Maltz talks about the belief cycle. That's exactly everything that we have been chatting about, like how people do it. Literally, when he labeled out the belief cycle and how we create what we will consciously create what we subconsciously believe to be true. And oftentimes it'll feel like we're avoiding the thing. We'll oftentimes create. We will oftentimes create a feared negative scenario through the conscious actions that we tell ourselves. We'll avoid it. Right? And I think it's a good idea because that's how crafty our subconscious actually is. Right. Our subconscious knows that the best way to predict the future is to create the future, but it knows that to put a palpable spin on it. You're not going to do something that you think is creating the thing that you fear, but you'll happily do something that you consciously think is avoiding the thing that you're fearing. Or to anyone else, but it's only to you.
Brilliant. It is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The patternistic steps, when you read someone's pattern and go, this is the steps that you take, and you see how it's all got a grand scheme of one thing leading to another. Oh my goodness, to see 20, 30 steps of someone's steps to get the very thing that they believe. Oh my God, that's a moment.
And to see that and to hear somebody talking about it, and then they're sitting there going, oh yeah, this is what I'm scared. And so in order to avoid this, I'm going to do this and then this. They're going to do the pattern, right? And then to anybody else will go, do you not, what the fuck are you talking about? Do you not think how that is literally everything you just said is leading you right into what you're scared of, and they're like,
How do you not see this?
you moron.
We're all the same. We look at other people and go, our friends go, how do you not know that about you? And everybody goes, I do?
Yeah, yeah,
Why didn't you say something? Because it was so obvious. We thought you must have known, you idiot.
yeah, but it's not to us. Our brain is so good at deceiving us to making us want to do the things that it wants to subconsciously lead us to doing. We will consciously create what we subconsciously believe.
I've been getting people asking me if I would do sessions, just online video sessions for an hour or so, giving reads into what they do patternistically, their true nature, their purpose, a problem that they have. I don't solve problems anymore. I don't do that. I give people insight that changes their lives by giving them the tools that they need straight up. I'll call you out on your stuff. It won't be me telling you anything. It will be simply the truth left in the middle of the table that is undeniable. That's why we record the sessions and you play that back to someone that you love. If it's not striking a chord, you can have your money back. I've got to say, in the thousands that I've done, only one person has ever taken their money back, and that's just because they didn't see their way. And that person did call me many years later and go, oh, yeah, okay, oops. So if it's something that interests you rather than the $2,500 I used to charge, got a window of time. It's available. So for $500, you can get on the line with me. So it's interesting to you. Fill out the form in the link in the description. Remember, nothing means anything about you. Easier said than done. I know. Cheers. Again, we could talk forever on this. I found that little book about people being right rather than happy and only seeing what they want to see. And it's this little Instagram post about these horses. And whoever's creating it, because it's hilarious. So just watch this for a minute.
Yeah. He just told me that he has a wife and kids. Ooh, clock it. Wait, so he's like a family man.
Yeah, husband material.
So last night, he got really aggressive with me. He put his hands on me.
I need that.
Physical touch.
Yes,
right?
that's what I was
His love
thinking.
language is physical
It's
touch.
giving Muhammad Ali.
Right.
So yesterday, he told me that he cheated on me with another woman.
Honesty. Right. He chose her yesterday?
Yes.
He's choosing you today.
Oh my!
The other day, he tried to run me over with his car.
Ooh.
So he's got
He's got a
Right,
car.
he has two of them.
Oh my! So he's got money.
So the guy.
How good is that?
Good. So good, dude. It's like sometimes Instagram's just a gem.
Galt. I like
Everything was fine until you took the actions you thought were avoiding a made-up problem.
made a problem. There's projection into the future in an attempt to try and resolve your pain from the past, to avoid your pain from the past. You're
Right.
dedicated to trying. It's man hands, Jerry.
Yeah.
She's got man hands. What are you talking, George? George Costanza. She's perfect. She's smart. She's into you. She's funny. She's into you. Yeah, can't do it, Jerry. She's got man hands. Everyone has their own idiosyncrasies that they can validate. They can go, yep, that's definitely justification for why I feel the way I do. I need to withdraw from this. It's just song and dance to try and avoid their pain about the way they see themselves in the world. And they're completely oblivious to it. And of course, it's them. It's the man hands.
Yeah.
It's not them. Yeah, I hear you. Mate, that's awesome. Got an invite from a couple of blokes who want to operate, who want to go and do medicine, and they want to go into the Amazon or into Africa or Asia to be able to go on the kind of journeys. And I'm like, okay, but it can't be problem solving. You know, I'm not here to solve a problem of yours. We're here to just remove the shit that's getting in the way and you to be present and have one of the greatest times of your life and just see it's that easy to step out of that groove that's in the record, if you will.
The rut.
The rut, right? And I think that's what, I'm excited about the use of psychedelic assisted therapies guided to be able to help vets who are struggling with PTSD. But it's not always what's required. So it's a case of let's just get a chance to get that nervous system regulation without that first. And then you can step into it. As you know, it can be a scary event. Like the time you left me for 2 weeks in a coma. It was only 30 minutes.
Mate, you left me. No, I
You
didn't.
left me
I was sitting in the other room watching TV.
under a controlled experiment with medical professionals nearby. They injected me with ketamine, a small amount, in a controlled experiment. Then you left me there for 2 weeks. I could hear you outside, you guys. I could hear you making
Laughing.
meals, laughing at me, going to sleep, getting up in the morning, going to work. And I am in the K-hole. I am paralyzed. I can't move. And I'm thinking, these bastards have left me here. Dave has left me here. Dave, the bloke I trusted the most, has left me here in the K-hole, paralyzed. Can't move. 2 weeks. And then finally you come in and I can't even turn my head. I could just open my eyes. I could just start to talk a little bit, but I had the
Yeah.
fish lips. The fish
Yeah.
lips going, why did you leave me?
What you talking about, mate?
2
It's
weeks.
I have the alarm on. It's on right here on time. You're like, no, like it's not.
You,
That. I promise you, it's
you left me.
not. It was literally an hour. Literally an hour.
In my mind, the disassociation being the first time I'd ever taken ketamine under a controlled experiment. And literally the disassociation was so different to any other psychedelic that I was certain that you had left me for 2 weeks. I was absolutely sure, even though I knew I was in the K-hole. I knew this. I'm trained psychonaut. I knew I was there, but no, you left me. You bastard.
It was so funny, dude. It was so funny. You're just what? Why did this?
What?
No, it's not true.
Thankfully, your training as a medic, also your training in psychonautery helped me dramatically. Just when I thought I'd known it all, and that's the joy of psychedelics in a controlled environment, is they can take you to places that you can't possibly conceive of in your normal mind. Your normal mind can't even think of it. It's like going to Burning Man and then trying to describe it to somebody. They go, "Is it art? Is it this? I don't know how to describe it." You don't.
No.
Until you go, you don't know. Until you do the psychedelics in a controlled environment with the therapist who's helping you through your stuff, you don't know. You've never been there. You've never touched that part of your brain.
100%. Yeah, we don't even know. And it's like the brain doesn't want to believe.
Mhm.
Like so much of traditional therapies and talk therapy and all this other sort of stuff is really based around the idea of getting your heart to accept what your brain can rationalize. And
Right.
people will be in these ruts for years, and they're in there and they're like, "Doc, why this?" And the doc's like, "You know why. You
Mhm.
know why. We've talked
Mhm.
about this. We've talked about it." And they're like, "Yeah, I know," but they don't believe it.
Don't believe it. That being the big thing.
They don't believe it, not with their brain, but their
Right.
nervous system doesn't accept it.
Doesn't accept it's a good point. Not just not believe it. I can't even accept it because
can't.
that's the unknown. And remember the unknown, that's a scary spot. And the scary bit, that's a scary space is going to end up where we don't want to be. We can't allow that to happen. We've got to control things to make sure it doesn't. Ironically, that control is the very thing that creates the thing you're trying to get away from, that feeling you're trying to get away from, just giving it more and more and more energy. So the ability to accept, I concur with completely.
Well, but psychedelics sidestep all that. They show in real time. You're not imagining it. You're experiencing it.
Right.
I mean, that's what that ego dissolution and things like that. I mean, I know that, I've had several very large life-changing breakthroughs with either LSD or MDMA, where I would take the medicine and I would go through this mental rehearsals and these scripts of these things that I've worked so many times. And then all of a sudden, through the magic of the medication, I would make a neural connection. Dave, why do I think that this? Oh, because of this, dumbass. And you're like, whoa, what? Like literally it was a thing that was blocked from my brain because of trauma. My brain wouldn't let me see that point of data.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it's like, well, this is why you do that, because of this. And I'm like, and then you can't unsee it. Like it's just immediately obvious.
And then it's like, oh, how did I not see it? Because it's so obvious. How did I not see it or make that correlation between that and that? It's literally the fresh dusting of snow on the mountain so that you pick a new route for your neural pathway to follow.
Yep.
Rather than going back into that same groove. Such a great analogy for it.
Yep.
It's that time of the show which I call for Idea of the Week.
Uh-oh.
And Idea of the Week this week the science of shifting the biological valve. The biological fine line between fear and excitement, and how operators use breath to bend reality. And we're going to have an exercise at the end of this, the practice of the day we're going to do together, which is bringing it back to the breath. Okay. So when you're standing on the edge of a ramp, 12,000 feet, ready for a night jump, or waiting in the stack outside a door, your heart is pounding, your amygdala dumps adrenaline. The only thing that dictates whether you handle business or freeze up is cognitive appraisal. What story your brain tells itself about that racing heart. And that is a direct watershed moment unless we train ourselves. The irony is we spend millions training guys to jump out of planes and kick down doors just to teach them how to do what a yogi does on a yoga mat for free, which is to breathe. Yoga, that distance between two things and how you travel between the two moments in time. On the door, stacked, ready to go. You can feel the heartbeat of the boy next to you. You're about to go in. But when the mind is fixated on what's on the other side, the fear, I could die right now. There's a bloke on the other side. He's going to shoot me. It's going to hurt. I don't like this. But it's what we do to bring ourselves back. And that's what excites me. When sort of seeing firsthand, fear and excitement are actually co-located in the brain. And the only difference between the two is the depth of breath. So the concept is the breath is the only part of the autonomic nervous system that you can manually hijack. The mechanism is that shallow breathing traps CO2 in the lungs, triggering a primal suffocation alarm in the brainstem. Slowing it down engages the vagus nerve, which tells the heart to drop anchor. You see people on scary rides, and you see the videos of them. They go out and they get thrown. They're literally like locking up. There's no breath going in or out of their body. Is amazing that they lock off blood flow to their brain so that they pass out. So they're not present to see what scares them the most. How incredible is the body that it will literally shut you down so that you don't have to see the shit that's scaring you. And the breath and the compression, that is amazing that the body could do that in a reaction.
Yeah.
So shifting this biological valve. What I'd like to ask you, mate, is when everything went sideways on an op, how long did it take you to realize your chest was locking up? And what was your cue to fix it? I've trained people in this, but I want to hear, what was your cue to fix it? How long does it take to realize that's what's going on and then to change it? How long and what did you do?
There was a thing when I was in jump school. One of my teachers was just sitting there and goes, dude, if you have a malfunction, just relax. You have the rest of your life to figure it out.
The rest of your life.
No, it's in your life to figure it out, just figure it out. But it really is that, right? The difference between when people die or they succeed typically is being able to press away from that, breathe and focus through that stress and everything that you were just talking about, and actually the breath, and refocus yourself and resist on that thing. I was doing a training operation in out in Virginia, night dive on rebreathers. I'm down there with just my buddy, and we're doing we're planting simulated explosives on the side of ships, right? So we're all the way down underneath the ship, where, we're sitting down there. It's pitch black. You can't see anything. I can't even see my buddy. I can just feel him in the water, right? And all of a sudden, my rig goes down, period. It just shit the bed. And nowhere, none.
What depth?
We were probably at we were in between 20 and 25 feet. We're on there because we're on rebreathers there, but you couldn't see, right? Because the hull of the ship is directly up above you. And then there's a pier and it's pitch black, plus, because I was on there, if I would have tried to just go to the surface, I would probably gotten an AGE and everything else. I mean, there was none of that sort of
fuck you up.
Right. So my only solution was to fix the problem, or I die. And I remember sitting there and feeling that panic, and I'm starting to drown, and all this other sort of stuff is bearing up. It's just completely dark. My buddy has no idea what's going on, because he's just there working. He has no idea. And so all of a sudden, and there was just this moment of just sitting there and just this kind of come to Jesus moment, if you will, where I just took an imaginary breath when all the panic is rearing up and just went, nope. And as calmly as I possibly could, but quickly, I grabbed my buddy by the shoulder, and I give him one of those and pull him back from what he was doing, so that he knew something, and he can't see me. Right. So I literally just spun him around and just kind of gave him one of those numbers, like letting him know that something, and he has no idea what the hell is going on. He just knows that I'm asking for air, you know, and we very subtly, you know, we did an exchange and all that, and we were able to start doing it. And then we ultimately finished what it, because thankfully he was almost done with what he was doing right there, you know, so I gave him the whole thing. And for the next few minutes, I literally would just take a huge hit off of his thing, give it back to him, and then I would just keep my hand on his shoulder, and whenever I would just hold my breath, and whenever I needed it, I would just give him another squeeze, and he would hand it back off, and we developed this communication. But I remember, and then we eventually got up to the surface, and, you know, everything was fine, and then we found out that basically I had a one of my lines got cracked in the system, and all this sort of, you know, when it got flooded and blah 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 blah. It wasn't my fault. The point being is, I was literally just sitting there going, dude, if anything, if I would have done anything except for what I did, I would have died.
Yeah.
If I would have reacted in that exactly cool, calm way of just sitting there saying, I'm not listening to the fear, I'm doing what I know is right.
It comes first, and it starts with that breath. And talk about a magnifying glass on the exact thing we're talking about, to be where you don't have breath. You can't take a breath. But what do? You're taking a breath. You're getting control. You're regulating your nervous system. We've got this. You know, it's amazing that in training, and my buddies who are Navy divers, we'll even think of your buddy, Paul, Navy diver, Australian, that bloke a couple of times. At nighttime, night dive, shark latches onto his arm and leg, a bull shark.
Yep.
And your training goes out the window. You only think of one thing, which is regulate that nervous system. That's what comes first, without a doubt. And a lot of my mates who are Navy divers talk about the same thing. You guys have it where the exercise where you're bound up and you got to hit the bottom and come back up again, hit the bottom and come back up again. We can talk about this as much as possible until you train yourself in it. And again, stress is, or trauma is, too much too quick. But that building blocks that we talked about, the pyramid of building blocks towards skill, regulate your nervous system. New skill, regulate your nervous system. New skill, regulate your nervous system. This is the thing. It's the blanket that covers us when it comes to performance.
Yep.
This is the baseline of what we need. I had trained in that, and I had done that a number of times, that exercise, with different crews that I've been with to see what it was like. But it wasn't until I was rafting the Franklin River with buddies, and we got in a predicament. Franklin River is one of the great rafting journeys of the world. It's 10 days. It's the remote wilderness of Tasmania. Many people have died. Many grade 5, grade 6 rapids. I had 10 buddies, and we were on that. And I got pinned underneath a raft, underneath that underslope, underneath the volume of water. And I got pinned under 600 kilos of raft and the water on top of it. Everyone else got spat out. I got spat out on the dark side and ended up pinned underneath it. And I freaked out. And the first thing, back to the training, nervous system. Take a breath. Can't take a breath. Okay, let's just regulate. You've got this. Calm the fuck down. People always think that they can last a minute or so without air. But when you test them on 10 seconds feels like a minute because you're freaking out. And of course, because of that adrenaline dump, the CO2, you need the air quicker. And in that moment, remember my training, took a moment. What do? I work my legs against the rock underneath me, against the boat above me, and just wiggle, 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 wiggle. How I came to that, that's what I need to do, I don't know. But it's just what I did. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. And after 45 seconds or so of doing that, I got up just enough, still pinned, to be able to get my lips above water. Not my hands, just my lips, my nose. And it took a gulp of air and a bold push, then back down again. You've got this, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And it took me a few minutes to be able to get my head above. And then I got up on top of the raft, and the guys are on the other side. And I'll show a photograph of the effort to try and pull me back across this raging torrent of a river. But it's in that moment, as you talked about, that if we freak out, you're dead. Take the breath of the mind and then come back to the breath. Well, yeah, unless you experienced it. It's your life flash before your eyes, but it's like, I'm not dying today. I got control of this. And if I'm going to die, I'm going to die calm.
I'm going to die trying to do what I'm supposed to be doing.
With a smile on his face, right? I bumbled my way through that storm. Okay, so to that end, fear is just excitement without the breath. If you can control your lungs, you can turn any hellhole into a playground. take the moment, regulate the nervous system. This is the field we're in. It's the greatest tool you can have. Have you heard about this 7-second cold wrist rinse that was tested on 3,000 soldiers after combat situations, simulations? Concept of it was basically that, and I'm going to have to get some verification on this, but someone just suggested me to this yesterday, this exercise, and I need verification. But basically it was if you put your cold wrists, wash them in cold water for 45 seconds, the cold on the wrists where the veins are exposed had an effect of basically regulating their nervous system, dropping them down.
Well, the
And a bit-
face, that.
I've heard about it for the face before. Did you guys ever do anything like that at all? Talking about different methods for regulating the nervous system?
So, I mean, I always heard it from, the face was the big thing. Is like literally, they even teach it in the mornings and stuff like that. If you just take and put your face into cold water, just your face, it immediately calms down your nervous system and actually activates the vagus nerve.
Yeah, right. Signals your hypothalamus to down-regulate the stress, I guess.
Right.
Lower heart rate. Yeah, interesting. Some operators, some units you have to be a master of two different forms of down-regulate. One of them being mental, the other one being physical, which I found fascinating. The physical one often was knitting. I know a couple of guys, and that was their go-to, was knitting after combat situations, was to come down from the adrenaline spike. They'd be on the helo on the exfil, covered in blood, just haven't been in a fucking gunfight,
Right.
and they'd be knitting away. They'd be knitting a beanie or knitting a scarf.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever have to do anything like that at all?
Not a lot of guys did that. I mean, I know a lot of the guys did, obviously going out there and exercising or doing things like that. The amount of guys that, would immediately just go from, where they would basically, we'd go literally right off of an op, just running out there doing whatever we were doing. And then guys would come back and would go for a run. Or just get out of a gunfight, just be on the X, in a huge gunfight or something like that. And then guys would be like, oh, I'm just gonna come back and go pump some weights, or I'm gonna go for a run, or I'm gonna go do this, or I'm gonna go do that. And a lot of people found a little bit of an escape by doing that.
Yeah, right. To squeeze those adrenals under a safe environment to then be able to down-regulate the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. It reminds me of boys talked about being in Iraq. The insurgents used to use these small needles filled with adrenaline, and they'd take a smash of that, and they would be, dropping all 30 rounds from an AK as quickly as possible with it, just sticking it up over the top of the embankment. But, all 20 of them have taken a shot of adrenaline, and they were so courageous. You could put 3 bullets in them, and they're still coming.
Mm-hmm.
So the ploy became to actually just wait, just one round within 1 second, within 1 meter to keep them down. But after 45 minutes, things would go quiet. And then over an hour, then they'd get up and move on the position tactically, and they'd find them all asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Because the adrenaline dump was so fierce and so ferocious, it milked the system. It squeezed the adrenals what happens after that? You're exhausted. Did you find that too after ops, how hard you would sleep if you had a chance to down-regulate, or was it a no-sleep thing for you?
No, I used to actually sleep really well, like after ops and everything like that. I didn't fall asleep directly on there, but yeah, dude, it was like, I always remembered it was like the weirdest thing. I would literally be on the helo coming back, not even out of danger yet. You're still literally out, you're still literally transitioning and fly. And guys are taking naps on the plane, because they're up that thing. I mean, you can just tell it's such a thing. They're like, well, what the fuck am I on the helo? Like, either we're going to land and I'm going to get off and do something, or we're going to get shot down. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, it reminds me of a seasoned warrior I knew, and he had the 1,000-yard stare. Those blokes have been around for 20 years, and they just got that 1,000-yard dice. And they've killed more bad guys than cancer. And that just the ability to switch off, like, okay, I'm done. You're in a helo, and they're out.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the truck. They're out. They're sleeping when they can. They're eating when they can, and they're in relationships whenever they can, because they know they might not be getting it again for a while. And I do appreciate that about that. The shift it takes from training at this level to be able to go. It's your time between things that takes up time. Your ability to get stuff done. You come back off ops. You are getting ready for the next op. You're replenishing your kit. You're getting ready because you might need to go back out straight away. Then you can relax. But there's no dicking about in between. I had among elite operators where I see that ability, even when they come back into their lives, the distance between things is short. It's okay, I've got a task, get that done. And once that's done, there's something else I need to do. Then if I'm going to relax, I'm going to fully relax. I'm not going to relax with this shit hanging over my head that I think I need to do.
Yeah. There's also a thing, we used to talk about in the team all the time. There's a pecking order, and you get back off of an op or something like that, or you get back from training or whatever, and there's team gear, personal gear, you. And that means you take care of all the shit that's communal first, and then you take care of your own personal gear after that, and then you go wash your balls, right? Like and it's in that order, right? Like,
Right.
one of the guys off trying to take a shower and get warmed up when guys are still cleaning off the boats, or taking care of the trucks or something like that. And no point, or if you're in there going, oh, I know my gun's all screwed up right now and it's all dirty and I need new ammo and all that, but I'm going to go get a shower first. And they're like, nope. There's a pecking order to it, and it's team gear, your gear, you.
And that's great for the listeners that are out there. You can use this in your own life to think of what is the team gear, what's your own gear, then what's you. Because you can't possibly take care of others until you pull the oxygen down on yourself.
Right.
So get that done as quickly as possible. Eat the damn frog. Then you can veg out. Then you can bliss out. Then you can take the recharge. Then you can dick about. You can take the recharge. But you're just killing your nervous system by being on edge that you think, oh, I should be doing something else. This is what I should be doing right now. I know I've got to do that, but I don't. Eat the damn frog. Get it done. That's taken care of. That's emotional regulation. Get done what needs to get done so that when you relax, you can relax fully. When you sleep fully. When you eat fully. When you love fully. It's a great MO to live from, in my experience. Solves a lot of problems, especially with men in this age of I need to be a certain way. Take care of business first. Then you can relax into dicking about.
Well, I think that also goes both ways. It goes from self-betterment as well. I've had so many people, who have asked, that have asked me or other people, and, and we get up in the, we get up in our 40s, we're sitting there, and then guys are working jobs that they hate. They're working this, they're working that, all this other sort of stuff. And then they're sitting there and, and I've got buddies that are out, now just dicking about, and having a good time and doing this and doing that. People are like, oh man, must be nice. But I'm like, no, dude, they put in the work. They went, while you guys were partying in high school, they went to school. They went to selection, they started a company, they, while everyone's out at the bar, they were saving their money and doing investments. And now all of a sudden you're still doing the same shit, but they're, super successful and they're off dicking about and having a good time and all this other sort of thing and everything like that. But it's because they took care of the things that needed to get done and the things that were for the betterment of everybody down the line before they took care of screwing around.
Right. Yep. Without a doubt, prioritization, important part. The first thing you do and what needs to be done. And then there's a fabulous word my buddy has, which is the pontification of one's neighbor. And it's one of the longest words in the dictionary. And I can't think what it is. I'll pull it up. He's like, that has a space, but only after you take care of shit first, then you can use that time. And then it becomes a priority. Right. It becomes part of you looking after you and you take care of business.
Eventually that comes back, that's one of those things too. You ever read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
Yeah. Stephen Covey?
I believe that sounds right. I don't want to misspeak on it, but I loved when he had his different quadrants of effectiveness, right? And he talked a lot about how the self-healing, replenishing part is so critical. And it's just so overlooked, but really, if you do, it's the foundation of your pyramid, right? Because, if you're not getting your correct sleep, if you're not taking care of your mental health, if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not eating correctly, if you're not doing all of these things, then everything else that, like what you said earlier, put your own mask on before you can help anybody else. Take care of yourself.
Needs. Take care of your human needs.
Take care of your needs before you start, and so often people will just run, and they don't realize that they're actually horribly ineffective because they have nothing to offer in that situation, because they're running on empty, dude. I mean, they're completely gassed out and have nothing to do. And they just, and then things take longer and they get more stressed and they get more tired and then they get more run down and then they have to take less sleep and all this. It's like, no, dude, what you actually need to do is the counterintuitive thing is stop. You need to stop, you need to recharge, you need to replenish, and then reinvestigate that thing with fresh, renewed eyes. And you'd be surprised all of a sudden what you were dicking around with for 3 hours, you'll knock it out in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's self-regulation we talk about all day long. Take care of your needs. And self-regulation is a need if you want to perform at your best. If you're just happy with your life, that this doesn't pertain to you, just knock yourself out. Just know that. Knock yourself out. But if you want more, then this is the first thing you should be working on, is this emotional regulation. Like, you've been studying neurology now to help lots of people. And from a brain science perspective, what is a structured intensive discovery day in nature, like completely removing the daily noise? Is it actually mandatory for rewriting a survival script?
A lot of different studies have shown that the brain is resistant to rewriting during heightened levels of cortisol. So when you are stressed, when you are scared, when you are all these sorts of things, the brain, the ANS automatically goes into fight or flight. It goes into your reptile mode. It goes all the way down into that thing. So when it does that, for a survivalistic perspective, it doesn't want to try to learn something new. It just wants to go off of what it knows to survive the moment, right? And it's not, when you're performing, you're not learning. So that's one of the things that I always talk to people about, is when they're in a situation where they're trying to challenge something, they're trying to reprogram, they're trying to do this. The first thing we got to do, take the breaths, right? Calm down, relax, because because your brain will not rewrite from a neuroplasticity perspective. Your brain will not, it is stressed. It just goes into survival, fight or flight.
Right.
And
you got to fight the instinct. You got to fight the habit.
Exactly.
It's a fucking battle. You've got to go, no. And the breath is such an enormous tool to be able to go, you've got to take that breath. We'll talk about, we'll go into some box breathing as an exercise just for the average Joe to get an experience about what we talk about. Because I know that's one of the standards that you guys have. And it's just such a great standard, which is 4 breaths in, 4 breaths hold, 4 breaths out, 4 breaths hold. And we'll do that as the exercises of the week. But before we do, I want to get into another a brief take on a segment of the week I like to call Dear Dickhead, which is, what would you have told yourself as a 16-year-old, mate?
Oh, man. One of the biggest things I truly wish I would have learned earlier in life was the value of myself.
Oh.
I am, guys. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
But I think that I would have really instilled, I wish I would have known how many people in life are fucking clueless. And it's just true, and how many people that you assume have all the answers and have it all figured out and are just fucking flying on the seat of their pants, dude. Like, they have no idea.
They're just making it
up moment to moment. And I think because I was constantly looking around towards this, and it's this horrible thing, and it's only getting worse with social media, but we're tribalistic social creatures by design. Right. So it's in our nature to oftentimes look towards the group to tell us the way it is. What should I want? What should I think? What should I believe? And all these sorts of things. And then you wonder why we have people that are now in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are leading lives that, even if they're effective on paper, they've got money, they've got this, they're fucking miserable. Because it's not their life. And then we see divorces at an all-time high, and suicide and depression and all these sorts of things. And a large amount of it is because people are living lives that aren't even theirs It's like Tyler Durden said it the best on Fight Club. You work a job that you hate to buy stuff that you don't need to impress people you don't like.
Right.
True.
So true.
Yes, so true. And there's that whole thing. So I wish I would have understood earlier that my opinion, and I'm not saying that it was lack of education or whatever the case is, but really instilling a stronger sense of personal trust and agency and worth at a very, very young age. Because I can say that as I've aged and I've shifted into that mindset, dude, it opens up all the doors in the world, like all the doors in the world.
And so that one line that you would have said to yourself is, if you could look yourself in the eye at 16 and say,
I would have probably said something like, "You are enough,"
send you down that, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like I've had the great fortune of most of the people that I know that are incredibly, incredibly successful and happy and just charismatic and everything like that. It's interesting. Like, my buddy, I've had the great fortune, I'm friends with Joe Rogan, and it's so interesting to watch Joe do what he does because that motherfucker does not fucking care what other people say. It's so interesting.
Such
And
a gift.
yeah, but you can see it. And that's why he is where he is because
Mhm.
he's scared to trust his own instincts and his own compass and to follow what he thinks and what he wants and what he values and what he believes in. Right.
Mhm.
Now, he's not saying, "Oh, I'm right and you guys are all wrong." He's not saying it from a narcissistic place. But when somebody comes over and he's like, "Yeah, I think this," and somebody else goes, "I think blah, blah, blah," he goes, "Okay."
Okay.
He doesn't even
Okay.
argue. Doesn't care. He just moves on with his day, And I think that is a straight up superpower. And the more that you can do
Mhm.
that, I find that the more that I've moved into that sort of a world, the less reactive I become to the exterior world, what other people think or say or do around me or to me or whatever the case is.
That it means nothing about you.
It means nothing about me.
Mhm.
And I'm able to reallocate all of that time and energy and attention back on the things that I can control inside of myself. And I can investigate and I can do all of this sort of stuff just by letting the other shit go and assuming and going, they probably don't know what the fuck they're talking about anyway. And by the way, where's the proof?
But not having to go down that whole road. It's like, let idiots be. Lions don't listen to monkeys.
Exactly.
Right. And if it gets a reaction out of you, then, oh, there's something I need to look at because I think it means something about me. Therefore, it's not them.
It's not them, it's me.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. I like that a lot. It's awesome. Look, again, we could talk forever on this. Let's round things up with what I like to call practice of the week. I have a spinning wheel here that oh, look at that. The practice of the week is box breathing. An oldie, but a goldie. But just to give some context, it's something, correct me if I'm wrong, it's something you guys learned through SEAL training, which is learning to downregulate your nervous system by breath. And to give you the audience an idea, concept is going through a doorway, you're going to kick it in, you're with your team, with your buddies, you're about to roll, and there's strong chances a guy on the other side who wants to shoot you in the face. The difference between strong chance. Because he's so the difference is that whilst your heart, you can feel the guy next to you stacked on the doorway, you can feel his heart racing. That ability to breathe, this is an exercise that they would use to box breath to lower to regulate their nervous system. And what it does is that the brain, fear and excitement are co-located within the brain. And the only difference between them is the breath. So you're taking it out of that no breath into forced breath, which drops you down. And then all of a sudden, an interesting thing happens with teams that I've worked with in doing this and monitoring them is that their perspective becomes about excitement. They're not scared. They're not thinking about what could happen. They're thinking, oh, what a great day to die, even if I do. Or how cool was this? I'm rolling with it. I'm trained to do this. I'm backing myself. Ooh, I'm alive. And in my body, everything's switched on and I'm at heightened alertness. And I'm not preoccupied with this thought of something that could happen. I'm back in the now. And that's the difference because the other guy on the other side, and this is some great stories coming out about guys kicking indoors and the guy on the other side firing the AK 30 rounds and not hitting a single operator in the doorway because it's just gone all around them and into the ceiling and not one of them has hit the lats, even to the extent of one of them being hit in the magazine of his M4 in front of his face and it lodging the round, a 7.62 round lodging in the magazine. Amazing. 2 bullets from our guys, tap, tap, dropped in because of that focus, excitement versus fear, preoccupation versus the now. This is where it's at.
I had this amazing, I'll tell you one real quick thing. And you talk about just relaxation, right? And downrange one time with one of the teams, you know. So the train's heading up towards the door, right? Bunch of bad guys in there and all this other sort of stuff. And I mean, you know, it's like the little mud hut villages, right? So the train's heading up towards the main door. We're already breached the compound. We're heading in there. You know, guys are doing sniper overwatch and all this sort of stuff. So the train of about 8 cats is heading up to the main door of the building. And then there was there were a couple guys on the roofs as well. And there was one guy on the roof of that building. And I mean, team guys, like our guys, right up on the roof. And then there were other guys down on the adjacent buildings. Well, this guy literally comes in there, and as they go, the train's moving up, the fucking door opens and this guy pokes his head out with a fucking RPG, straight up rocket launcher. And he shoots it right at the first guy in the train. And you see the whole train goes, whoop, and just does one of those. And this rocket goes flying up, misses everybody, and then just does a little caterpillar up into the sky. However, apparently in terrorist school, they didn't teach this motherfucker about overpressure. I learned about overpressure. Apparently they didn't teach him because he had the back of the rocket launcher inside the door. So all of a sudden the overpressure explodes and it collapses the whole mud hut down on him and all of his terrorist buddies. The problem being one of our guys was on the roof. So he goes through the roof down literally like into the beehive, falls into the building, into the room where there were like 8 fucking terrorists waiting in there. And the 2 dudes that were on the sides, that were on the adjacent building, literally just ran, because he fell probably like 8 feet or something, you know, like just through, like, you know, like falls, you know, it wasn't cool, you know?
Right. Wasn't pretty.
You're right. The 2 dudes run to the side of their buildings and just literally aim down and go, Kirk, freeze! And he just laid there and they go, and they shot everybody around him. And he just laid there on the ground and just let his 2 buddies kill everybody. He just trusted his buddies to do it. But I'm like, dude, the amount of stress, like just going, like he literally hits the ground and there's 8 dudes that are trying to kill you. And you hear your 2 buddies go, Kirk, freeze! And he just, and they just took them all out.
Jesus, that sequence of events.
Yeah.
RPG, duck, out of the way. The chain of event stacked up because you got looking at the back of a guy's helmet and he moves, so you move instinctively. It goes whistling past. BBDA was not clear. Back blast danger area was not. So
I don't think they ever learned about that.
It would have had their heads would have been ringing, blown out. Old mate drops in from the top.
And if I remember correctly, he fell in and he jammed up his leg. I don't remember if he broke it or something, but I mean, he still fell like through the, I mean, you know, with 60 pounds of kit on and everything, you know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't, I mean, he got hurt, you know, and that sort of a thing. But I mean, literally all those dudes get up and everything else. And his 2 buddies just go, whoop, Kirk, freeze. And they just whip them all up.
Right, that's the luck bubble at work. It's that ability to, you know,
well, at least pick everybody off around them.
Right. People talk about luck. I get drawn into this all the time. The company, the luck bubble. Luck. What is luck really?
Yeah.
I see luck as cause and effect over and over and over again. And nowhere do I see it more than in sports or high level elite achievement status, like in operators and teams working together, because they have this ability. Fortune favors the brave. They downregulate their nervous system, but to the shock and awe of the people receiving it, they're literally in shock and awe. They are frozen. They are dorsal. They are not operating well. And in that moment, you take the power back. And this is a lesson for everybody that's listening, no matter what your field of endeavor. You want to be good at it. Learn to regulate your nervous system.
There's nothing in the world, there's no bad thing that will ever happen that panicking will make better.
Right. That story. This guy with the high-pitched voice. I don't want to fall in love with you.
Yeah. I can't remember who that is. Yeah.
What a wicked game. Chris Isaak.
Yeah. Chris Isaak.
Legend has it, Chris Isaak doing, playing for the troops in Iraq, and he was over there. The night after his performance, he's staying in country. He said, I want to stay with the lads and see what it's like. And he's in the green zone. And all of a sudden there's a mortar attack. And he comes fucking running out. And he looks up and there's fucking explosions, in the distance, and shit's going down and helos are taking off. People are screaming. There's 2 young Marines there having a cigarette inside the green zone. And he looks up and looks at them and they're pretty cool. Like, hey, he's like, should I be worried? And one of them says, if you want. And that was it. And he's like, okay. It's a choice. You'll be worried. You want to freak out? Knock yourself out. That's a choice. But it's not going to help things. It really ain't going to help.
I was telling somebody the other day, and then we'll get on to the breathing exercise, but I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and I was trying to tell them this, literally what you're talking about, the regulation of the nervous system. And I'm sure you've read Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. Mm-hmm. And remember, anybody out here who's listening who hasn't done it, highly recommend that book. It's unbelievable. And people who aren't familiar, Dr. Viktor Frankl was a Jewish psychologist that was incarcerated in Dachau during World War II, during the Nazi rule. And so he got a firsthand experience of applying science. There we go, much better. Of applying the psychological sciences to watching people in arguably the worst situation you could have. I mean, like, they're literally Jews incarcerated in Dachau. It doesn't get a whole lot fucking worse than that, right? And how people stayed sane and how they survived. And anybody who reads the book, he ended up having this famous theory that came out, and he said, in between stimulus and response, something that happens to you, to response, is a sacred moment. And that is the moment to choose your interpretation and your reaction to whatever just happened. That's the nervous system regulation. It's the ability to sit down and go, whew. And in that is your own true power. And it's the last true human freedom, because no one can ever take it away from you. You always have to give it up every single time. And even if you've always given it up, the next moment is a new moment to reclaim it, because you have to give it up every single time. And that is that nervous system regulation. And he talks all about sitting there saying, most of the people that died because of their reactions, the way they started to interpret and to react to the Nazis or to incarceration is ultimately what made them die. Other made a different choice, the way they regulated the stress, the way they responded to the Nazis or to being beaten or whatever the case was, changed their entire fate. And then everybody, of course, wants to argue that, yeah, but that's so hard to do. I'm like, that's why you have to train it. That's why you have to train it on a daily moment, so that it's a muscle, so that the more stressful things happen to you, you are ready. But you're going to be able to jump into it.
Right.
When there's a car crash and you're trying to do it, if you've never done it when your boss snaps at you.
Right. This epidemic of trauma that we have, especially in kids, being sheltered and wrapped in cotton wool away from the opportunity to build emotional resilience, to downregulate their nervous system. It's literally setting them up for failure.
100%.
We have a generation that's being set up to be emotional basket cases who cannot regulate their own system.
Yeah, I mean, have you read the book, The Coddling of the American Mind, How Best Wishes and Good Intentions Destroyed a Generation of People?
No, I have not.
That's what it's called. It's called The Coddling of the American Mind, How Best Wishes and Good Intentions Destroyed a Generation of People. And it was written by 2, at the time, very liberally minded psychologists who, after the data came in, after 20, 30, 40 years of like real case studies, have literally applied these things, saying, hey, we were wrong. All of these things we thought were a good idea, participation trophies, kinder, gentler, don't, not yell, safe spaces, all this shit literally has set people up for mental weakness and for failure, because they're never learning the mental tools. And at the end of the day, life doesn't give a fuck. Life doesn't care how gentle your childhood was. When your partner dies in a car crash one day, that just happens.
It doesn't care. The universe, God, it's just a reflection of where you're at.
Yes.
the concept that there's a man in the sky. Sorry.
No.
Very, very close friends and family, deeply devout in many, many different cultures. I spent time, many different houses of worship and cultures. Whoever you believe is the God, they don't give a fuck about you.
No.
That's not the way it works. It's simply giving you the opportunity to see yourself over and over and over again. You are doing yourself, your family, your community a disservice by not increasing the amount of pressure you're under and learning to take responsibility for how you feel by
Dude,
coming back to the now.
and just like circling it back to the selection thing, one quick second, because I've had so many people that would argue with me, especially out here on the West Coast, that why is it that those things are so hard? Like, isn't it because they talk about, how devastating it is to people when they pat or they fail and they blah, 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 blah. And they're like, isn't it? It's so fucked up that it's so elitist and it's so hard and it's so this and it's so that and blah, 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 blah. And I go, listen, selection processes for spec ops came in response to a real world need. It wasn't like somebody just sat there and dreamt up this horrible, training selection process and then went, wow, we're just going to fuck people over and beat the shit out of people for about 2 years. No, let's find a job for them. No, it came in the reverse where there was a terrible job that needed to be done and they needed to find a way to select, filter, and train people that were capable of doing that job. I.e., the real world set the standards, not the classroom. The classroom responded to the standards, right? And yet we now sit in a world where the classroom thinks that it makes the rules. And that's simply not the case. And that's how you get this exactly what we're talking about here, where people who have grown up in bubbles and then they go, well, all the time, everything's always been fair throughout my entire life and gentle. But what do you mean? What do you mean doesn't the real world know that there's rules that I'm supposed to be? It's like, no, it doesn't.
And is playing by a set of rules that you haven't fathomed, that the universe is a reflection of what's going on for you and you haven't taken responsibility for how you feel. And here, the drop the microphone moment, if anything we have said today and you're listening to this is getting an emotional response out of you, it's because you think it means something about you. That is your portal. Dave and I aren't saying this shit to provoke you. We're saying to because we love you.
Yeah.
This is the portal for investigation for yourself. If anything we have said pushes your buttons, we've got tens of thousands of hours in this realm, pushes your buttons, it's because you think it means something about you. No one else thinks that. You think that first. Therefore, that is where you need to look and build that resilience, that understanding, that love of the self. That's something you think is you're powerless to change about yourself. And that's the end of conversation. This is not up for discussion because that's the bottom line. And if you want to shoot some comments and throw out the hate, then go for it. Yeah. Because if you want, then I'll actually just do a read on you right then and there and tell you what's coming up for you. And you're not going to like it. It's not going to be pretty and it's going to be for the world to see.
All real power starts with accepting truths that oftentimes we are, that are uncomfortable for us and embracing them and understanding them, and authenticity. Like, I don't know a way, I've never seen a path to real power and real fulfillment and the ability to create and change your world, whatever you want to create, that doesn't start from accepting truths about what's really going on and coming at it from an authentic place. Like I've never seen a different way.
Right. And every culture, great culture, evolved culture that had no contact with each other over thousands of years came to the same understanding that now science is ratifying. It ain't changed. The game hasn't changed. We're not smarter. Use AI to be it's objective. It'll just go, well, of all the data we've got on you, this is the shit that you do over and over again. Mm-hmm. Dude, we could go on and on and on. Shit, we got to get off this thing. So yeah, you got 5 minutes to do a breathing X?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. So what you're going to do is a simple meditation, and it's the box breathing meditation. So you're going to get your feet on the ground. Everybody, you're going to take a moment, get comfortable. I'm going to take a big breath in just to start with. And just let it all go. Let it all go. A big sigh. Let it all go. Just another big breath in. Just getting comfortable and settling into the space. Now, just hold it and let it go. Now take a big breath in and hold it at the top. Hold it. Hold it. And let it all go. Breathe it all the way out, all the way out. Take another big breath in, hold it at the top. Hold it at the top. Suck in a little bit more. More. Hold it. And let it all go. Breathe it all out. Now just taking a normal breath for a moment, in and out. And now we're going to start. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Just continue on your own. 2, 3, 4. For the next minute or so, you're on your own. Whatever speed suits you. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, or as long as you want. finish the box that you're on over the next few seconds. And whenever you're ready, hearing my voice just leading out of the state that you're in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide awake, fully alert, feeling fine, in perfect health, feeling better than you were. Just take a chance to feel your body. This is the baseline. You can do that exercise for as long as you like. Try it for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. And every time your focus wanes, just bring it on back. Train your nervous system, but also train it when shit's going down, under pressure. Anyone can be one with the world in Shavasana after a yoga class and then move out into the world. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you're late for something, can you still regulate? This is the key. If you're a warrior, this is the first aspect of being a warrior. Some cultures, if you went to war, they wouldn't allow you back into the village until you spent time in the wild by yourself, bringing your nervous system back. Dave, been great having you on, mate. Thoroughly enjoyed it. As always, we have great conversation. I think I'm going to have to get you back on because there's so many topics that we didn't touch on. I really
Love
do. You've been awesome. To the rest of the world out there, your homework is consider nervous system regulation. The breath, just use the box breath. Try it. Give it a crack. And remember, nothing means anything about you. We're just making it up. Make it up. Have a crack. Love yourself. And until I talk to you again next week, come back to the now because that's where it's at. Lots of love. Peace.
Love it, mate.
Cheers, bud.